he created the impression that Trade Union Congress over the years has been heavily compromised, and they are ready to go all out and do what they want.
Okay.
But at this stage, you know, two things always happen in this country. They have already sent a signal that they know labor unions are meeting and are planning to sabotage them. The extended effect is intimidation, threats to ordinary workers, and the multiplier effect is low productivity and perhaps demonstrations as they have threatened.
Okay, Eric, you see, you cannot just juxtapose what most of the public institutions do in terms of revenue generation to the private institutions. There are some of the sectors which are generally, you know, I would say cost centers. They don't generate any revenue. So when you find yourself working in the basic schools and then in the recent time, the second cycle institutions, I mean, it's rare that you need to think out of the box to generate revenue, because you are not allowed to generate revenue from the people, I mean, your customers, that's the students. With the new, you know, the introduction of the free SHS and the fact that the government commitment towards, I mean, alleviating the expenditure, you know, challenges of parents in terms of education at that level. However, Eric, it's also important to admit that things are not very, very easy as people may think. So it did generate into some of these issues of people asking questions. As I said, I really sympathize with TUC, because you need to be on a negotiation table to look at figures before you can really make demands. When you're out there, you may not understand a lot of things. You see, this concerned workers' associations that are still springing up. At the end of the day, after their demonstration, after registering, after going through documentation and becoming a recognized body, all they will do is also go and sit by the table. And once they start understanding the issues, they begin to know what the figures are, how government... Look, let's accept the truth. Look at the budget of government for the past few years. Our recurrent expenditure continues to increase. It's not like from today, it has been consistent. And sometimes, if you know the government coffers very well, after a certain period of time, if the government owes you, forget it. That money will not come unless something happens in the course of the month. Because once it is time to pay salary takes a chunk of the government's recurrent revenue. And once it comes in, you have a lot of issues that await you to, you know,
to address. Settle. But let me come to you, Titi Doc. I'll come back to you again. Now, does it suggest that those who may be leading this group of public sector workers who are aggrieved are so naive that they don't really understand the economics and the figures? Because there are several things that have played out in recent past. Misplaced priority, somebody will call expenses that do not really make people appreciate government's decisions on how things must be done. For example, in recent past, we've had conversations about the procurement of past questions for students, for example. They made reference to Article 71 holders and what they think suits them and why they have done so. And at the same time, they made reference to rhetoric by government that, oh, the economy is bouncing back, they are good to go, and so on. So these conflicting statements really confuse them. Are they so naive, or until they sit at the table, they cannot understand government's position?
Eric, I would disagree with Prof's point that he says that until they get to the table, they would never know what is at the table to be discussed. These guys are not naive as you may think. We are in a dispensation where figures are easily obtained to know what exactly goes on that negotiation table. I believe strongly they know what they have. And before you find a group agitating, like you're saying, then obviously there's a misplaced priority. They are seeing that these funds could be used for A or B, and they are seeing it going to C or D. So obviously, let's make some noise so these funds will be diverted. I don't want to sound a bit political, but a few years ago down this line, we were in this country where the president just picked one particular person who was building a hotel around the airport city, the Pullman Hotel, and gave him a tax, what do you call it, rebate of about $25 million. The question is this particular tax waiver going to a lot of people? I know a lot of people who have applied for the tax waiver, which they do not get it. And we are seeing that this particular person that they've given this tax waiver is a close person to the presidency. So obviously, he is able to maneuver his ways. We have seen Ikwete struggle to finish his hospital because he's not getting tax waiver. We have seen other people who want to help society with their own money, and they are looking for this tax waiver. I don't know if you saw that news item a few weeks ago about one, what's the guy's name? What's the footballer's name? I'm trying to remember the footballer. He's not a footballer, but he has the same name as a footballer, Osei Kufuor, who I'm told his father was Osei Kufuor Laboratories that used to be around 37. He's in the UK. He tried to bring hospital beds into Ghana, and he found them somewhere in the US and was like, oh, this is good for my country. Can I get a tax waiver so you people can take it back to Ghana? And he didn't get it. They said he should go and pay for it himself. He ended up diverting the hospital beds and equipment into Nigeria because it was accepted there for free. And this was on social media. We could read the story.
What are you driving at?
All I'm trying to say is misplaced priority on funds, that you see these funds going into wrong places, will make people agitated, because we are expecting that at least we are asking for a meager increase, and it's not happening. And we are seeing that funds that are supposed to have done some good to us is being diverted elsewhere. Obviously, people will be agitated, and that is what brings agitation. Seriously speaking, I used this word earlier, Edilija. We are seeing that there is some money somewhere that could be used. You are saying that they agreed on a 4%. They are not happy, obviously, with 4% because they think that it could be able to could go up a little bit. Considering the hike in prices these days, I don't know. I'm trying to come to terms. We are seeing the price of maize today. It's crazy. Those who eat maize will tell you it's crazy. Eric, a finger of plantain, what we call the apim, is now 1 cedi. It's 1 cedi.
Is it not because we are in the lean season?
No, it's not because we are in the lean season. And this season is corn. The season now is we are supposed to be harvesting corn, but it has gone down. So you would ask yourself, what was this challenge? What were they trumpeting about when we were saying that Planting for Food and Jobs have done this, has done that? I don't want to go to be reading stories from the same agric minister who was saying that this project is doing well. We have employed so many people. We are doing fine. And all of a sudden, it's nosediving. So it comes back to the whole season that you realize that government is not giving us a clear picture of the true nature of what is going on. And when people sit back, they feel that they are being left out. So they need to actually champion their cause. So I believe that this labor organization feels that what they were supposed to have gotten, they are not getting. That's why they think that the 4% is not enough for them.
Okay, so
and they must champion
let me come to you, Prof. Has reality dawned on us? This group, aggrieved public sector workers, may not have the power to negotiate in terms of salaries. For example, it is organized labor under the umbrella of tripartite committee. At this stage, can they pile pressure on organized labor to go back? And they do this on a yearly basis. Government may not have budgeted for it. So how should government be seen to handle this? 3 questions in one.
All right, let's just laugh it off. You see, I think I made a point earlier on that often than not, you may not know the clearer picture until you go and sit on the negotiation table. And it's been happening all the years. So one may ask, why is it that every now and then government will always have to struggle things out with these unions if the money was there? That is one question one could and anybody at all could
Are you
ask.
suggesting there's no money?
Oh, Eric, don't. I mean, there's every evidence to show that the money, the chunk of money we need to compensate workers in the public sector is so enormous that it constitutes a large proportion of our GDP. No two ways about that. So to a large extent, a minute increase. I'm a public servant. I mean, I'll be one of the happiest people if our salaries are increased by 10-20% because it will directly impact on my income and expenditure. Now, I'm a realist. The budget is read. We sat here the whole of this year, discussed our budget. And we've mentioned some of the things that government must do in order to attract more revenue so that some of these issues will be addressed. And we've even critiqued the continuous loans and then the nature of loans we go in for. Now, if you look at the government loan portfolio, the concessionary loans has reduced. Rather, we are going private loans. I mean, high.
And let me share some figures with you. Okay. According to the Bank of Ghana, Ghana's debt stock has hit 332 billion cedis, and the debt to GDP is about 76.6%. And this is very, very serious. And then I also curled a Facebook post, which suggests that people are now throwing jabs at the vice president. And I want to read exactly what Alfred Ogbami wrote. And it is very instructive at this stage because all these feed into worker agitations. Now, I'll share with you on the screen. It says, at a projected minimum 83% of GDP under his watch, and that of his boss by year ending, Vip Baumia has turned into a failed, fanciful ICT guru, caught in the failed stoppage of Galamsey with $3 billion acquired drones, set up bank accounts for every resident of Ghana by 2020 to no avail, overseeing the most expensive drone medical supply contract in the world in a country ravaged by lack of hospital beds and good medical facilities. And it's instructive. I'll explain why I'm reading this. At 67% of GDP, Ghanaians, and they are referring to Dr. Baumia's post as far back as 2015. And it says, at 67% of GDP, Ghana's debt stock has crossed the critical 60% of GDP level that developing countries with limited access to capital flows should worry about in terms of debt sustainability. In fact, Ghana is right back in the debt unsustainability that led to HEPIC. However, HEPIC debt relief will not be available again. Ghana's status can now best be described as highly indebted lower middle income country, HEMIC, and I'm sure all of us heard about that. And that was as far back as 24th March 2015. Now, if Ghanaians have lived it, looking at people in power today, the rhetoric yesterday, where we are, the borrowing, expenditure, the news that slaps them on the face. For example, look at what the health minister is quoted to have done. Look at the announcement by the foreign minister on COVID-19, the expenses we claim we have made, and concerns raised that it doesn't tally with what is in the 2021 budget. Don't these feed into worker agitations rather than the realities of today?
Eric, I think you've rhetorically answered the question by itself. Now, what you just read from Alfred Ogbami, I think in some context, I disagree with him. You see, at any given point in time, political rhetorics will tell you, comparing, the economy to gaining some political gain, credibility. As I always mention, get to the table to know what is there. In 2015, we all know, we heard it. We heard the fanciful, seminars organized by the current vice president. But trust me, some of us were of the view that, look, we need to put the structures in place. And I'm one of the few people, probably some of you may attest to the fact that if you don't, he even mentioned it, if the fundamentals are not right, if they are weak, you'll be exposed. And what are the fundamentals? I want to believe that the vice president, after coming to see the reality
on the table,
have realized that the best way is to digitalize our system. And how do we do that? We have mentioned it over and over. Look, banks are crying that when we give credit, how to identify the people is even a problem. So the best way is to get the address system in place. Digitalize. With just a click on my phone, I know where you are. When you move to the next level, Once you move to the next house, the system must capture you. These are the fundamentals, and it depends on how to digitalize the system.
How do you compare such fundamentals to excessive borrowing with nothing to show? Because people speak to that issue. How do you compare that?
Thank you. See, the question you just asked me is just like your children are hungry in the house. And you are saying that when I go for debt, when I go for loans, it's going to affect my indicators, my performance indicators. So let me allow them to go hungry. In future, when things go on, I'll depend on my income. You bear with me that, today, it is rare that any economy at all could strive on their internet-generated funds. You have to, at least balance your income with what you earn as well as what you can get from external sources, and that is debt. Now, coming back to what I was trying to put across, that has to do with the basic fundamentals, which will streamline the system for any successive government to build upon. And I want to commend the vice president for that particular initiative. That look, let me switch a bit from the so-called economic rhetorics and I come to the fundamentals, which he has always mentioned. That look, without the fundamentals, you get it wrong. And I think he's charting the path that some of us expect him, and then the party of this man sitting here. you know, it's a political activist.
Yeah, I'm sure
they should all chart the same path and stop this political and partisan rhetorics. Then tell Ghanaians the truth that this is where we are. No matter what, none of them has been truthful to Ghanaians that you cannot manage an economy without debt. None of them. You see, today,